Well, I already see it, Chris. Cal G
no.
from the YouTube page doesn't like the intro. Look, brother, I don't either. I don't like it either.
Intro
it feels
or info. He said info.
Well, he corrected
and then
himself.
changed it to intro.
It's a little dry. It doesn't have the pizzazz that Chris and I like to present ourselves with, but it does allow us to get through a show without technical difficulties. It seems we're one for one.
Yeah, I think until we get through now. Well, was that audible?
It was for me.
Well, so here's the thing. Yeah, until we get to the off season and get through some of these shows, we'll figure that out because we do want to be able to use the soundboard, but not at the cost and expense of me having to like dip out of the show 6-7 times. I mean, if you were with us last Wednesday, I mean, not our greatest show. So
it was
if we can eliminate some of that by cutting out the soundboard here and there.
It was bad enough. It was bad enough that I didn't post it on the website. I didn't upload it as a podcast episode. I actually had intended to delete it from YouTube, and I just forgot. But it was a lot of me just kind of talking about like what's happening, what's going on over there. Here comes Chris. Damn it, the echo is still here. It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad. So yeah. So last on Monday we did this intro, no soundboard, no iPad hooked up, no loopback audio, software, which essentially allows you to run multiple things through the same channel. That's what it did. None of that's being used now. It's just my mic, my headphones, Chris on the other end, same deal. And, so far 1 for 1. So listen, if you guys have questions, let them fly right now. Chris and I do have a couple, pretty low key topics, not a lot of, deep
we warned you on Monday. We warned you on Monday that we show up Wednesday completely unprepared. Yeah. I mean, when we say it's fan led, it's legit fan led. We have nothing. We've got nothing here, Brandon. At least I don't have anything on my side.
I'm gonna sit here and doodle, and until anybody has something that I'll show you. Not yet. That's not usually the first thing out of the hopper, but we'll see what.
Those aren't until the end of the show.
I think what I'm drawing is a cat. I think I'm drawing a cat right now. I just started, with Chris as a fellow artist. Do you ever do that? You just start putting some shapes down and you see what it is?
I do. Sometimes I do that, but when I go in without any intention, it never turns out well. It always, shapes connected and blobs. And then I'm like, you know what? Fucking scrap it.
Before you know it's a penis and you're like, why? Why does that always happen?
Why did it become a penis again?
AC Wilhelm, thank you for the donation. Erick All's doctor tweeted that Erick was pissed at the University of Michigan training staff advising him not to get surgery, i.e. the cryptic tweet that he put out there. Does that change my perspective at all? I can't let it change my perspective really because I still just, we don't know. First of all, Michigan's not going to address it, so we're never going to hear that side of it. We've got Erick All's side of it. The truth might be somewhere in the middle or maybe shaded towards one or the other. I don't know. I mean, Michigan wants him to play, but also doesn't want him to play because of injury. Erick All wants to play because it's his future, but I got to be careful with my health. I mean, there's just so many things that go back and forth to an injury type of thing that I don't know how you can take any of it for this is exactly what happened. And there were interested parties on all sides of it, and it was only one way out. I just don't really believe that. So no, I still think it was not the best look to do what he did on the way out. I mean, I could imagine, if it was something close to what his doctor put out there that maybe he was a little miffed. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with one-sided information where it's clearly biased also. It's just a weird thing.
I mean, the short answer for me is no, it doesn't change my perspective in any way. And like Brandon was saying, you got one side of the story in a cryptic tweet on Twitter, and then obviously whatever the screenshots were, and his doctor said what he had to say. But what I'm not going to do is believe that, the medical team at the University of Michigan wanted to harm or put Erick All in harm's way. I don't believe that. There might have been a different school of thought in terms of how he should go about fixing the injury and rehab and all of that stuff. And it seems like there was, difference of opinion there. And I think that, you know, when you opt to go your own direction, which is, it sounds like what Erick did. Like there was a recommendation from Michigan, and then there was a recommendation outside, and Erick, you know, from the reporting I've seen, chose to go with the outside recommendation. And at that point, you know, Michigan has a decision that they've got to make. I mean, you're going to put this kid on the field. You know, whatever happens to him out there is going to be on you. And I think, you know, again, I'm not going to dive into it. And the shitty part about it is that anybody from Michigan's side isn't going to be able to come out and refute or, you know, try to clarify anything that was said from Erick's side. And so I think it's unfortunate. And it's another reason why, if you're going to transfer, you keep your mouth shut. And if there is a big enough problem where you feel like you got to say something, then you got to say it all.
Real. Say it with your chest, man.
So that everybody knows exactly what happened, so that there's not weeks of this bullshit on Twitter where, I mean, Jesus, dude, even Erick's father like has thrown his hat into the mix where he's like beefing with people on Twitter and using like Jim Harbaugh's son as like a gift to like clap back at people. And it's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Look, if it's not a good fit, if it didn't work out, move on. Everybody was happy for you when you announced you were going to transfer and find another place. It wasn't until you decided to bash Michigan on the way out that it became an issue. And then, you know, social media does what social media does.
I mean, for instance, if Michigan decides, you know, first of all, back and spine surgery, no joke. Like there's some stuff that can go wrong. It's like that's an area you don't play with. If Michigan decides to go ahead and do the surgery and something's not perfect and Erick All's football future is ruined, now Michigan's on the hook for whatever might have happened if they have an insurance claim or if they took this out or did you like, I get it. I get both angles, both sides. Erick wants to play football again. He wants to be 100%. He wants no back issues. Michigan, I mean, like the idea that Michigan wouldn't want him to be at 100% and playing football for them is nuts. Like that's obviously what they would want. It just didn't work out for whatever reason, the medical side of things, whatever. Again, we're not going to ever hear anything about it from Jim Harbaugh or from Michigan or from the doctors that consulted with him. We only have one-sided thing that's completely biased and salty. So, like, how do you know what you're really hearing, what really went on, exactly what went into the decisions on both sides of the coin? You don't. And so, again, like Chris said, he was a captain. He was at Michigan for 4 years. Everybody loved Erick All, and there was, I think some people were like, damn, why is he leaving? Like, that's a bummer. Like, I wish
it was a bummer, but there was no ill, like,
and then he does what he does, and now it's completely different. And so, you know, I don't know, man. And like you said, now you've got people involved that really don't need to be. I mean, I get it. It's his dad. He wants to take up for his kid, but he's doing it in kind of like why? Why is it going down that route?
Harbaugh's kid it's just, I don't know, man.
And putting more cryptic things out there, like, oh, if you only knew the truth. Well, what is it? What is it then? Or keep it to yourself, man. Like, I don't get, that's not accomplishing anything, like, at all. So yeah, it's just a strange vibe all the way around it now, when it didn't really need to be like that before at all.
Can you imagine if we did a whole show like that? Like if we just came out and we're like, well, we know some stuff here, but
guess
we can't really tell you the extent of it. But listen, if you knew it all,
if you've been around the show before, Penny, Near, we don't really dive too much into the injury availability thing. I mean, like, we do what is obvious. I mean, you deduce what we saw against Ohio State and what we saw against Purdue and what we've learned since then with Blake Corum's injuries, got surgery. You know, Donovan Edwards, I believe, you know, I think he got surgery too. Has that pretty much been well documented at this point? I think that's been kind of put out there, but he's supposed to be fine by the time the game rolls around. Mike Morris dealing with whatever he's dealing with, but he played in both of those games. I mean, so like, this isn't like insider knowledge. We're not knocking on the doors of these guys being like, hey, how you feeling? What's the percentage for the game? Like, we're just not really going to do that. But you can kind of figure out, looking back at who did what over the last two games, and like I said, deduce who's going to be in there. And it feels like, I think everybody is. Everybody that's played during the year that played a role, except for Blake Corum, is going to be back out there and ready to roll. So we'll see. And, you know, as things come out, they'll come out. We'll be asked about it. We'll talk about it. And, you know, that's kind of where we'll be at as we approach the 31st, dude. What are we, 17 days away?
Feels like a long time all of a sudden. Like,
it does.
The season was like flying by week by week by week. And then you win the Big Ten championship. And now we're just sitting here and it's like, damn, man, like, this feels like a long time to have to wait for a football game.
Yeah, it does.
Imagine what it's like being a Michigan State fan right now and how long you got to wait for the football. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you do want to wait like a whole year.
Yeah, maybe. Very important question, Chris. Have you found?
Listen.
Oh, listen. He wasn't a security guy. First of all, he was
He was not a security guy. This guy was he was picking up cords and moving them around, and that was pretty much the extent of his expertise on the team. I have not found him, but I will say I did confirm this with Brandon. Left visible marks on my body from where he grabbed me. So when I'm telling you it was egregious, like the dude,
it was aggressive.
I was bruised. I was bruised on the backside of both arms from where he grabbed me. I will say this: no, I have not found him, and no, I have not given up the search.
That was going to be my next question. I already knew the answer. Now listen, Chris does bruise like a ripe Georgia peach. Let's not kid our. No, I'm just kidding. But dude, you sent me a picture of your arm bruised. I was like, dude, really? Like it was.
I got out of the shower. I was drying off, and I'm like, there it is, right there. And I had every reason to feel the way I felt. And no, that bruise will not go unchecked. There will be retribution. I promise you. I will not forget his face. I won't forget it. I won't, Brandon, you've been around me. You see me in those instances. I'm not going to let it go.
It was a wild scene. I mean, I feel like I know what the guy looks like because of what he's Chris. Like, I'll never forget that fucking nose on that guy. That guy's nose. And he was, I'm like, all right. And then dude, like the first words out of your mouth the next morning, you like roll over again, we're in separate sleeping areas, by the way. But the way I was just about to word that made it sound like you rolled over and you're like, Brandon. No, he turns over from the other area in the hotel room and he's like, what would you have done in that situation? Like, I'm like, bro,
dude, I was still thinking about it in the shower this morning, still replaying it in my head in the shower this morning. I can't let it go.
Chris, I want you to answer this question because I feel like you have a more optimistic answer than I do. Do you think that Blake Corum is back next year in a Michigan uniform? Or because I know your answer, I feel like was pretty strong here before. Has it? I just saw your body language right there, though. Have you changed? Have you moved your slider a little bit?
My slider is starting to move a little bit, only because, now, granted, they're in a different situation, different boat, different position, and obviously, I'm not going to put them on the same level quite yet. But it was nice when Mike Sainer still came out early and said, "Look, I've got unfinished business. I've got more here to do. I'm coming back." The longer it goes on, and granted, Blake Corum doesn't owe anybody anything, and I'm sure he is weighing his options, or he's already made a decision. I don't know what the case is, but the longer it goes on, the more I'm less and less optimistic that he's going to come back, especially, given the fact that he's now rehabbing. It's the second year in a row that he's had an injury that's caused him to miss significant time. And he made a pretty big name for himself this year. I mean, he was on the Heisman list, one of the front runners for quite a while there before the injury. And I think there's going to be a lot of NFL teams that are going to be interested in him. And so right now I put it at like a 50-50 shot that he comes back. And I mean, that's the only reason I would slide north of that is because that's my personal hope is that he chooses to come back for selfish reasons. But if he doesn't, I would totally understand. Yeah.
I mean, he's going to, it's tough with running backs, dude. Like I talked, that's been my biggest thing before. It's like, if guys have a chance to go to the NFL, they don't skip that very often. Like it's a high percentage of underclassmen dudes who get a draftable grade. They go. And in recent instances at Michigan, guys left even probably when they shouldn't have. Chris Hinton, Donovan Peoples-Jones, to name a couple. But at running back, it's strange because like taking a year off in college is a very good thing for your NFL future. Not carrying the ball 250, 280 times. And Chris, like you said, he has dealt with some injuries over the last 2 years. This past season, obviously more significant. He's doing rehab. He's not even around the team right now, as far as we know. He's out west, doing some rehab stuff, and he's, posts on his social here and there. So it's just one of those deals where it's like, I feel like if you can go at that position, especially, like, you should go. I really do feel that way. And like, I'm with you. I want him back so badly, but yeah. I just feel like that's probably the move. And it does. Maybe, but I also like,
again, I look at it from like somebody who's a Michigan fan and from somebody who, wants, wants to see Michigan continue to do well.
Right.
I would hate to see Blake Corum's career end the way it did at the University of Michigan, because he was he was having such an incredible year. And that's not to say that, that he would duplicate or replicate that success next year, or that maybe week 2 he doesn't suffer an injury or something. So there's all kinds of variables. I just, he was having such an incredible year, and to see it end the way it did was a real bummer, because he, quite frankly, he would have been in New York had he not been injured. I think that's pretty damn clear at this point. And, would love to see him come back, but yeah, I'm sliding more towards it's a 50-50 shot at this point.
He would have had, not only would he have been in New York, he'd have had a very real chance of taking home the hardware. It was almost like, I mean, I'm always tuned in. I mean, everybody who's into college football pays attention to the Heisman. It felt like this year they were like, we got to give it to someone. Like, that's really what it felt like. Like, a lot of years it's kind of obvious going in. Maybe once in a while there's a 2-horse race. But usually it's pretty cut and dry. Like, now this guy's going to win it. I mean, it's pretty clear. It did not feel like that this way. Almost like by
the
default.
Dude who won it, I mean, granted, it's a team game, but didn't win the conference championship game, isn't in the college football playoff. And there's a good chance, had Blake Corum played and been healthy against Ohio State, he would have put up big numbers. And then you're talking about Purdue in Indy. I mean, I think, again, you're talking about another, 100 to 150 yard game out of Blake Corum. You send him to New York, and he's, he is that guy. So again, I hate the way that it ended. I know he's starting to get some of the accolades and the All-American stuff that, the postseason awards, but it's not the Heisman Trophy, and it's certainly not the same as being on the field for, being a major contributor in that win against Ohio State, playing in another Big Ten championship game, all of that stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. It's got to be. There's no question. It has to be a high level of bittersweet. I mean, you're like, you were the guy, and then you weren't because you hurt your knee, and then, I mean, dude, Blake Corum is a team guy, no doubt. He's ecstatic for his teammates, ecstatic for Donovan Edwards. Still gets a ring, still a huge part of everything. But not being out there, it's got to eat him up, man. He's a competitor. He works as hard as anybody to be out there and to play at that high level. Like, he's the kind of guy where that could be enough motivation to maybe come back. I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's the opposite with a guy like Ronnie Bell, where last year I felt so bad for him, going down in week 1, and then Michigan goes on this incredible run. They beat Ohio State. They go and win a Big Ten championship. They go to the college football playoff, and he can't play in any of it, even though he's still a big part of the team and he's around the team. You can't tell me that this second time around, he's playing, he's healthy, he's participated in it. He played in the game against Ohio State. He played in the Big Ten championship, and now Michigan's back in the college football playoff. Could not be happier for that kid for sticking it through, sticking with the team. I mean, it's so cliche, that whole those who stay thing, but I think Ronnie Bell, exemplifies that probably more so than anybody right now. I mean, the dude, he had some decisions to make once he got injured, chose to come back, chose to rehab, chose to get better. And now look at where he's at. He's getting ready for the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's been quite a story for Captain Ron, man. I mean, there's not a better way to come back from an injury like that than what's happening right now. I mean, pretty storybook, obviously. Nick, thank you for your donation, sir. Do we think that Santa Ono, new University of Michigan president, can put some pressure on the regents to change or ease the academic requirements for transfers to help Michigan in the portal? This is a little out of my wheelhouse, but everything that I've ever learned about this from people who have covered Michigan for a lot longer and been a little bit more involved in that kind of thing, I would say no. I would say it doesn't really matter who's in there. Now, you start to look at what's happening around the landscape of college football and the importance of NIL now, and there are some new, there's some new motivation that has never been there before. So maybe some wheels are turning and some things are changing, but everything I've ever heard is that there's no compromising on that block M, on the degree, on the academic standing, on any of that when it comes to athletics, even though football is like what runs the whole machine. I mean, it is. It's just one of those things that Michigan has not been they're just not willing to budge on it, and they have never been. But I don't know, man. Things are different now in a way that they haven't been ever before in college sports.
I don't know that I would say, putting pressure on people, but I do think anytime you have somebody in a position like that who's forward thinking, who's willing to like innovate and approach things from a new perspective, that can only help with those things. So it doesn't guarantee that it's going to change or erase or, modify the academic requirements for transfers, through the portal. But I think at the end of the day, it was a great hire, and he's somebody who is already surpassed the dude that was occupying the office in the House prior to him. And so I think, they're off to a good start there, but how much that's of an impact that's going to make on academic requirements in terms of transfers and the portal, I'm not really sure.
I couldn't even remember his name for like 10 seconds when you were saying that.
Schlissel?
Schlissel. The Schliss. All right. Building on this question, same kind of arena. Jeremy, thank you for your donation. Yes, Michigan is playing at a high level. They're in the elite category at this point. Recruiting is not in that same area as the success on the field. You'd think it would be better. NIL killing Michigan. Insiders around different places. Again, this is out of my wheelhouse a little bit. I don't dive too deep into this stuff, but it's out there. In terms of like the specifics at Michigan, I've been an advocate for the collective and for Michigan to do a better job with NIL since it launched, talking to some players off the record, and then Hunter Dickinson on the record, and Juwan Howard on the record, and a leaked video of Jim Harbaugh on the record. I mean, like it's known at this point. Yes. It is known at this point that Michigan is not cutting it when it comes to NIL. I just don't know, like, when Santa Ono takes the job, if that's like, I don't know where that ranks on his list of priorities. Like, he's the president of the university. Yes, the football program and the athletics in general are a massive part of the machine, but it's not his main focus as the president of the university. So I think a lot of people want him to do that because he's like into sports, where Schlissel was not at all. But I just don't really know if that's like what he's banging out on his desk every day. I don't think that's what he's really into. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's what he's spending his days on.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's probably not even on his top 10 list of things that he actually cares about at the University of Michigan. Doesn't mean it's not important, and it doesn't mean that NIL doesn't need some serious help at the University of Michigan. I mean, you see some groups out there that are trying to make an impact with NIL, but by and large, it seems like it's falling flat, and it's not really having the impact that most people would help. And I bet if you were to take an anonymous poll, if you were to go, football team, basketball team, go across, different teams, are you happy with the NIL options at the University of Michigan? You're probably going to get a lot of people that aren't, a lot of student athletes that aren't. That's just my gut feeling on that. So, the biggest head scratcher for me from the very beginning has been, with an alumni base like Michigan has, a wealthy alumni base, how is there not something substantial set up already in place to where you're not trying to figure it out at this point, that it's already a machine that's up and humming along and working the way it should, and you've already figured out a solid way to get guys paid, not necessarily paying recruits a big amount of money to get them on campus, but once they are on campus, they've got something in place that's substantial, and it's something that you can go out and talk about on the recruiting trail and use it as part of your pitch. I'm not sure that Michigan has that. And from everything I've heard, I mean, hell, listen to Juwan Howard. Who knows what's going on with the football team, but I can tell you the basketball team, they're not feeling the impact of NIL, at least not in a positive way yet. And it's just strange that that's happening at a place like the University of Michigan,
who could and should be literally number one in this area. They could be number one. They should be.
If not number one, yeah.
The only school out there that has the kind of monetary backing is Stanford, and they just can't cut it. And when it comes to the athletics and some of the big athletics, now I know Stanford always does really good in that Captain's Cup or President's Cup or whatever it's called, where it's like all the sports across the board. But the money making sports, Michigan would be king. Michigan would be king, and I don't know, man. I just wish, it's what we've been talking about for a year and a half now. Wish it was better, because it could and should be a lot better. There's no doubt. People love it when we do this, Chris. Let's go ahead and look ahead to the Georgia game, shall we? That's everybody's favorite thing to do. And when you've got a paying customer like
you.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
I know. But when you've got a paying customer.
We've got TCU ahead of us, Brandon. We've got TCU. Okay.
AJ, I want to see your film breakdown of TCU. I want to see every single snap that Max Duggan has taken this year, what he does on those plays, pass to run ratio, break down the offensive line, how many times do they double team in before they move up to the next level. We need to know all of that stuff before we look at Georgia. I just cannot believe. I cannot believe that we are looking ahead. No, I don't know. I mean, Chris, do you have a specific stat line in mind of like what it would look like for JJ when it comes to, what kind of offensive output it might take to beat a really good team like Georgia?
No, I don't think it's a specific stat line. I just think as long as look, the way that he didn't have like a terrific stat line against Ohio State, unless I'm mistaken. I think I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but he completed what, like 12, 13 passes, I think, in that game.
A couple big
ones. He rolled out,
obviously.
he did some things with his leg. Right, a couple big ones. So that's what I'm saying. Like it can look a lot of different ways. I think he just needs to be able to play his game. And once he's able to use all the tools at his disposal, whether he's dropping back, staying in the pocket, throwing, read option, or he's just getting out on the perimeter and taking the ball, running it himself. I think if he's allowed to play his game, then to me, the stat line doesn't matter as much as the style of play does. And I think you saw a little bit of that in the tail end of the Georgia game. Now, granted, the game was well in hand last year by the time JJ came in and he threw that, that dime to Donovan Edwards down the field. He hit Andrew Anthony in the end zone. You could see that he was able to move the ball, and Georgia still had some of their starters in. But it obviously wasn't a competitive game at that point. So no, I don't think it's a specific stat line. I just think if they continue to play the style of football they've played all year, it's proven it's a formula for success. I mean, it got them to 13-0. Most likely will get them to 14-0 and get them to the national championship game. And then once you get there, you don't abandon what got you there and what's been working all season long. I think they have no intention of that. So what's his stat line look like? Probably what it's looked like most of the year. Maybe 15, 16 completions, 1 or 2 touchdowns, 40, 50 yards rushing, another touchdown on the ground. Doesn't have to be Heisman-like. He's just got to play the way he's played.
So I could see the question ahead of time, and I knew I was going to put it up. So I had actually written it down, and now we almost just said the same thing. I said 22 of 30, 250 plus through the air, maybe 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. If he can take care of the ball, obviously that's a big, big thing against a team like Georgia. And yeah, 30, 40 yards rushing on the ground, maybe another score. Just be productive, efficient, put points on the board, lead scoring drives, and don't turn it over. I think that's the biggest thing. So yeah, we'll see what that ends up looking like. Maybe got to get through TCU first, and I'm not overlooking them, but I expect Michigan to win. I expect them to win that game, and so then yeah, it is either Georgia or Ohio State, and I would expect Georgia to win that one. So there you go. So I think why you can kind of look ahead. Chris, you said my signal was a little choppy over there. It doesn't look like it on my end, but I can see some. It's like there's a delay or something when you get ready to respond to me, which is not usually there. So I don't know. Am I able to leave and come back in? I don't know how that works.
No, I think if you leave and come back in, the whole thing shuts down. So if if people out there, if you're seeing Brandon chop up a little bit, let us know and we can try to plan accordingly. But right now you seem like you're all right.
Okay. Yeah, the internet was moving slowly. I did like a speed test while we were sitting here, and it was like crawling. I'm like, my modem is right there, dude. Like, what is happening? I don't understand how that. Okay, now it's flying, so we should be good. Okay, they're saying not choppy over there. Maybe it was for a minute, but hopefully it'll cooperate. Yeah, I'm gonna catch some shade for this for a little bit. I think that's probably fine. I don't like the answer that I gave, but I gave it. John Randall, thank you for the donation. Do we think that JJ could be the best quarterback in the country next year? I think he's the real deal, even though Brandon would rather have Max Duggan. Apologies for my answer on that question before. Look, how about a fourth-year senior JJ McCarthy after playing for 3 years versus where Max Duggan is right now? That would be a different discussion. But yeah, I don't hate the question because I do think JJ McCarthy has that kind of talent. It comes back to the same thing we've talked about. What exactly constitutes as the best quarterback in the country? Because he's not going to lead the Big Ten in passing yards. He's not going to lead the Big Ten in touchdown passes. He's not going to lead anybody in rushing yards. He's not going to be utilized as a runner very much, even though we all think he has that ability and have seen it at times. So I don't know. I don't know how you really answer that question. What does it mean to be the best quarterback in the country? I mean, he's the starting quarterback on the number 2 team in the nation right now. That means he's pretty damn good, but like numbers wise, he's not in the mix for like anything.
No, I mean, they have I think the passing offense is like rated in the 90s or like the high 80s. I just think it's not that, could he be the best quarterback in the country next year? Absolutely. He could have been the best quarterback in the country this year, but given the type of offense and the style of play at the University of Michigan, I'm just not sure that he's ever going to be in the mix for that unless you're somebody that watches Michigan play every single game and you can see the style in which he plays, and you're not enamored with gaudy numbers and quarterbacks that are going out and throwing 50 or 60 touchdown passes, because that's not going to happen for JJ McCarthy at the University of Michigan. So that's a hard question to ask. If you're talking about like, will he be mentioned in the Heisman contention, with some of the other quarterbacks? I think it's highly unlikely, even though from a skill set perspective, I think he, could certainly place himself there if there was an offense that allowed him to do that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about the Michigan offense at all. It clearly works. It's been working. I'm not suggesting they change anything. I'm just saying that it's not the type of offense that, allows a quarterback to put out gaudy numbers enough to where they're going to be looked at as one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, I like I said, it depends on how you define best. How do you define best quarterback? Because numbers wise, no. Efficiency, leading the team to scoring drives, wins. Yeah, he already is. He already is one of the best in the country by those metrics. So yeah, I don't know. Just kind of depends on how you look at that. Real quick, Chris, we brought this up on Monday's show as news was kind of breaking, and unfortunately, Mike Leach did pass away. Head coach at Mississippi State, used to be at Texas Tech. Widely regarded as the father of the air raid offense. And as news broke that he did pass away, people just kept putting out story after story after story after story of this dude who was as quirky as anybody in the country, but beloved by not that you're going to hear bad things about him once he passed away, but like, I don't remember anybody ever saying anything bad about him, because he was kind of just this jovial, fun-loving, hilarious guy and had a way about him. And yeah, it just sucks, man. It sucks all the way. I don't know if Chris is having an audio issue now, or if it's me on my end. I'm not really sure what's going on, but yeah, really, really sucks that Mike Leach passed away, just 61 years old. And, people are already pulling for the rules to be bent a little bit so that he can be considered for the Football Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame as a coach. Apparently you have to win 60% of your games, and Mike Leach has won 59.6, which is, I'm quite certain they will amend that a little bit for him just because of the nature of the situation. But I don't know, just thoughts real quick. I mean, like, this isn't a guy that I've watched a lot of his games. I didn't cover him in any close proximity ever, but if you're a fan of college football, you knew quite a bit about Mike Leach.
Yeah, and I think that shows you what type of impact he had, is that, typically if you're a college football fan, you follow your team, your program, you kind of know what's going on within the conference of the team that you follow. But no matter where you were, no matter what, fandom you had, what part of the country you were in, everybody seemed to know who Mike Leach was. And there was always, it seemed like it was a frequent thing that he would show up on ESPN Sports Center and they would highlight something he said in his press conference, or would show up in an article. And then, after his passing, you had, people who just had all these incredible experiences with him, telling these stories on social media, and you get to know just more of these things that never made it to television or never made it into articles. And it sounds like he was somebody who just, he made an impact on every single person he came into contact with. Everybody seemed to walk away with like, they've got a story or something interesting that he said. And so I think anytime you lose somebody like that, it's a bummer, because it's like, those are the guys that really make college football what it is, and different from, I feel like, the professional level or some of the other sports. They're just, you hate to lose guys like that, and it was unfortunate to hear.
A national treasure that is thrown around about Mike Leach, but often, and I think a lot of people will agree with that. And how about this, Chris? A fan of the Facebook page played offensive line for Mike Leach at. You left James. I don't even know what is VSU. Chris, do you know what? I don't even know. I mean, that's obviously going back in Mike Leach's coaching career a little bit. But how crazy is that, man? That somebody on the Facebook page actually played for Mike Leach. That's pretty sweet, right?
Well,
there.
I did see. I saw a video come out, and people are putting it up on the in the comments here. Valdosta
State. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so, but I did see a video come out. I think it was on Twitter when he was with Texas Tech. And, usually you're used to like the quirky, funny Mike Leach sort of thing. And that was not the tenor of the locker room speech he was giving to the guys. He was getting in their ass. He was talking about, he's like, basically we suck this year. And what happened last year. He's like, you didn't go out and make that catch last year. Michael Crabtree made that catch last year. Like, you ain't done nothing this year. And the way that he was, so I think, seeing that side of him also, like there's some people who just sort of viewed him as like an oddball, and maybe that was his shtick and just kind of a weird guy. But make no mistake, like, he was also a really, really good football coach, and I like to see that side of him too when he's getting in somebody's ass, and the serious side of Mike Leach, because you get to see a lot of the funny stuff. You didn't really get to see much of that side of him publicly.
Well, I mean, he was never at a powerhouse program, but he won games. Like I said, he essentially invented the air raid offense. So, like, he knew his shit. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, it's hard to ignore the fact that he'll do a 3-minute post-game press conference about Halloween candy. I mean, yeah, it's hilarious. So yes, while I'm sure there were many moments like the one Chris just described, there were a lot like, the one about the Halloween candy. I mean, he went on and on. Not a post-game press conference. It was a sideline report. I think it was in between halves, actually.
Dude, the one I sent you about the George Costanza poster.
Amazing.
Turns out he's a big Seinfeld fan. Everybody, if you've watched Seinfeld out there, the episode where Kramer is doing a photo shoot of George, and he's got George on the couch, and George is doing that pose, and somebody at College Game Day took that George picture and put Mike Leach's face on George, and Leach loved it so much he had the fan come to his office reportedly so that he could take the sign and hang it up in his office. I mean, that's the kind of dude he was.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So yeah, just a bummer, an absolute bummer. That he died so young, man. 61 years old, dude. Like, yeah, shouldn't be on his way out right now. And I know a lot of people are hurting because of that. So, thoughts to his family and everything like that. But just, I don't know, man. You hate hearing about that right in the midst of bowl season too. I mean, like I said, I think his last tweet was talking about wanting all the Mississippi State fans to bring their cowbells and show up for their bowl game and stuff like that. Just sucks, man. Just no other way to slice it. Back to Michigan on the field for its bowl game. Chris, I think somebody asked about this above. Apologies for not putting your question up. But what are the biggest worries for TCU? We talked a little bit about this on Monday. You put a story up about what they're good at, what they're not so good at. Of course, we're both pretty high on Max Duggan after watching him in that Big 12 championship game. Is there a number one concern when you look at TCU? And I did learn a little bit more about this receiver that they have, nicknamed the Pterodactyl, by the way. Dude is a freak show, and he looks like the real deal. One of the top wide receiver prospects in the upcoming draft. So yeah, they've got some dudes over there.
Yeah, I would say tempo and the athleticism that they have at the quarterback position with Duggan. I think that you've seen it a couple times. I think with Maryland, maybe even with Illinois, where teams come out fast. If the offense comes out fast, sometimes Michigan makes some mistakes early, and then they find themselves into a game, going into the half. And so I think if TCU comes out and they run tempo, it's going to be interesting to see how Michigan responds to that, particularly given the fact that, I know you're practicing and you're you're trying to stay into the groove, but you're basically taking a month off from football. And so you get on the field, you get on a big stage, that offense gets the ball, and then they just boom, 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 boom. Now maybe they go 3 and out, punt the ball, Michigan goes and scores. But that's my biggest concern, is that I don't want Michigan to fall victim to a high tempo offense that allows TCU to put up some points early and then keep it a game into the second half. Regardless of what happens in the first half, I think you're going to see basically what Michigan's done all year, shut them out. I'd be surprised if TCU scores more than 10 points in the second half. And so I think they're going to have to do most of their damage, if not all of it, in the first half. And that's my biggest concern, is can Michigan handle Duggan at quarterback, who's an athlete? He can get out. He can make things happen. He's a guy that's tough as hell. He's willing to put his shoulder down, take a hit. I mean, he showed that in the conference championship game. So if they can limit that, and if they can make TCU play at their tempo, then, the game's over in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thought from some people in that building, is that Michigan's going to be able to impose its will like it has all year, but maybe earlier on a team like TCU, who just has not run into a buzzsaw or a force like Michigan. And now you got to go out and play it, man. I mean, TCU was undefeated throughout the whole season until the very, very end. Like, they can play, and they've got some weapons, and they've got a veteran, tough, dual threat winner at quarterback. And those dudes, they can hurt you. So yeah, there's no question that Michigan's got to show up and do a lot of those things and be sharp. Yeah, the tempo, man, that gave them fits all year. Teams would sprinkle it in here and there, and it got Michigan on its heels more often than I would have liked to see. And if you've got a team that can do it for extended periods of time with a veteran quarterback like Duggan and some guys making plays on the outside, they can maybe keep it a little closer. But on the flip side, Michigan's going to be able to throw stuff at TCU that gives them fits too. And I do feel like what Michigan does travels better. They're better at it, and it's been proven week in and week out. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like, man. John, I had a few people ask about this, and I'm just not the recruiting guru I once was, man. I mean, aside from, when Michigan gets a commit, I'll dive into it a little bit, or I'll see, this visitor list looks pretty solid, or, some of the bigger fish. I just don't feel like I have that much to offer. I will give you a very surface level bit of knowledge that I have on Michigan's recruiting class right now, especially on the trenches there, D-line and O-line. So Eno Etta, defensive end / he's kind of like a Chris Jenkins type, I would say. Little big to be a true defensive end, little small to be a true nose technique, but he's a Texas kid, 4-star kid. A lot of programs wanted him. He seems to be solid. I know a lot of schools are still recruiting him, but that seems to be a kid that could maybe develop into something down the line. Evan Link, the big tackle from the D.C. area, 6'6", 290, 4-star kid. That's a true, I would say, probably right tackle. He doesn't scream left tackle to me when you look at how he's built, but you never know. I mean, guys like I thought Carson Barnhart was guard all day long when he was coming out of high school, and he's been pretty darn good at a right tackle spot. So you never quite know how those guys are going to develop, but right now he looks like a right side tackle kind of guy for me. Amir Herring is a local kid that I've actually seen in person a handful of times because he's been on the radar for a while. From West Bloomfield, he's an interior guy for sure. 6'3", 300, not nearly as long, a little more squatty, but pretty powerful, can definitely play in the middle. Let's see, who else do they got coming in? Nathan Ifobi. If you haven't seen a picture of that kid, check him out on Twitter. I know the Michigan coaches, Sharon Moore, Jim Harbaugh, were in his house with him this week. That's a future NFL guy. I'll say that right now. He's only a 3-star kid. He hasn't been playing football for a really long time, but when you look at his body, you look how he's built, you look at the upside and what Michigan has been able to do with developmental kids, I would not be surprised if Nathan Ifobi is playing on Sundays in the future. Brooks Barr, never been a huge fan of the kid. Not going to lie. He's a defensive, again, kind of a tweener, 6'6", 270, just not very twitchy. I don't know, man. He committed early. He's been committed for a long time. Never thought he was all that explosive or that special at anything. But, again, developmental guy, you see what you can get.
Dick.
I know, I'm a dick. And then Aymeric Kumba, that's the kid from France that I just don't know that much about. You're talking about a long, athletic edge, kind of hybrid kind of guy, like a Braden McGregor. Not as big, 6'4", 230, but pretty twitchy. Real long arms. Like him to get up to probably 250 when it comes to playing in college. But that's about all I got. That's about all I got on the recruiting trail. Again, like, that's just a little bit of a look at what's going on there, because I don't spend every day doing it anymore. I know that was my entrance into the market, but it's just not what I'm doing anymore.
Well, and I think a lot of people are wondering why Michigan has, the 19th ranked overall class, why, they're not killing it on the recruiting trail, given the fact that they're, you look at how much success they've had on the field over the last 2 years, you would certainly think that they would be high up in the rankings. But then you talk about things like NIL and, the way the landscape of college football is changing, and some of that may explain why there's such a discrepancy between success on the field and success on the recruiting trail. But here's what I will say. Until National Signing Day, like, to me, none of this shit matters.
Which is soon, by the way.
Which is soon. It's coming soon. But until that, none of that really matters to me, because everything is so fluid. These guys, and they're young. They've got a lot of people making a lot of offers. People change their minds. And so until National Signing Day and we see what this class looks like, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape in terms of where Michigan is right now versus where they're going to be. When is National Signing Day, by the way? It's soon, because I remember wearing like
7 days. Yeah.
7 days. Yeah. Because I remember specifically wearing a Christmas outfit when we covered it one year. Were we live for that? Did we do a live show?
I don't know, man.
What the hell was I doing? What were we doing?
Ain't no telling. It's all a blur at that point. I want to let Chris answer this question for us.
God.
Eric Miller wants, because in my breakdown just now, which I thought was decent for not being a recruiting guy, like I can offer a little bit. How explosive am I, Chris? Because apparently I was a little harsh maybe on Blake Barr's explosiveness.
Explosiveness? I mean, are we doing like a 1 to 10 sort of thing?
Whatever you think.
I don't think that's a fair question. I don't think. Are we talking like
not on the toilet? No. I know that's where you were going. No.
I didn't even want to say it.
Athletic explosiveness.
Oh boy, really put me on the spot here.
I'm not sure Chris has really seen it, to be honest with you.
I haven't, but if I were
be careful.
If I were a betting, but what's the comparison here? Are we talking about like compared to college athletes? Are we talking about just compared to guys that are in their late 30s?
Grab a 38-year-old off the street and let's get after it, dude.
I mean, yeah, I'll give you a 4.5, maybe in explosiveness.
Wow.
Let me ask you this. When's the last time you hit the gym?
Well,
like, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're not in the gym, if you're not regularly working out, I question how explosive can you be when you're housing cheese sticks at 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I'm at, and chugging diesel.
Put me in a back pedal and get the fuck out of the way. All right. It's smooth as butter, dude.
All over,
dude. No, footwork is on 10.
You're talking like defensive back pedal,
dude. Flip the hips and go. It's a wrap, dude. It's a wrap.
Listen, there's whether it's in Glendale or whether it's in LA. I'm sorry, man. We're gonna have to put it to the test. I'm gonna have to get footage of you in the back pedal, twitch, shift the hips. We're going to have to put it out to the people. And I don't think it's fair for me to have to put a number on it when I really haven't seen it yet.
If I blow an Achilles doing some bullshit like that, I'm not going to be happy. Okay. That is something I'm a little
great. Well, see, now I'm already questioning how explosive can you be if you're already fearing a season-ending injury before you even take the field.
I've got great wheels, dude. I've never really been injured in all my years of playing sports. I've always had good ankles, good knees, but they're getting up there in age, dude, and they don't get used that much anymore. You just never know.
We're going to get some video of you going through some drills. We're going to get the ladder out. We're going to do all kinds of things. We're going to put it to the test, and we're going to see just how mobile and explosive you are, Brandon Brown. And we'll let the people decide.
I can't wait. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 30 seconds of top tier. After that, it's gonna be tough. The lungs are not there. I still feel good about the quick twitch, about the change of direction, about the quick feet. I feel good. I feel good. It's just
we're gonna put it to the test.
It's gonna be very
put it to the test.
It's be very short lived. That's the main issue. That's the main issue. I was wondering Where where did his comment go? Dan Genro, who I grew up with and played sports with my whole life, chimed in. I was thinking he was going to expose me for a minute, but he really just asked a question. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. I think he was asking if I could cover you in a one-on-one situation. That's what it was. Can I lock down Chris in a one-on-one situation?
You mean if I'm split out wide at the wide receiver position? Nah, you're getting shook. Maybe that's what the video needs.
I don't know.
Because that's the position I used to play. I was at the wideout position.
Me too.
Look at us here, borderline 40-year-olds talking up our explosiveness, trying to get it on film.
I'll hit you with a sluggo that'll have you picking turf herpes out of your teeth.
I'll go to Dunham's tomorrow and buy cleats. Tomorrow.
I got them right here.
Right into Dunham's. Well, see, I don't have any cleats. There's been no need. Do I? These
are size 15s from Mike Onwenu. Probably not rocking these, but I do have them. Anyway, yeah, a couple of Uncle Ricos out there, dude. Both of us would be in traction by the end of the day. Oh man, dude. I think it probably needs to happen at this point.
There's no doubt an injury one way or another is occurring.
Dude, I will bring the tripod. We will set the phone up and we will run a couple reps, dude, and we'll see what happens.
Can you imagine people just walking by trying to live their lives watching that scene out there?
I was much younger, but when I was covering the Rivals 5-star camp at the Baltimore Ravens Stadium, I ran the 40 and people in the press box talked to me about it after I came up. And I was like this was like 8 years ago. I was younger, a little more spry. They weren't super impressed with the wheels, but like I felt pretty good about what I was doing out there.
That's the thing. When you run it, you feel like you're flying, but sometimes you're not, Brandon.
I mean, we can try to uncork one from the 50 and see who can drop one in the end zone. I mean, I'm for it all, dude.
We're just gonna go through we'll go through the gamut. I mean, can we get why don't we just put it to bed right now and we'll get on the Army National Guard base where they've got all their little, we'll just go through whatever boot camp they've got set up, whatever obstacle course they've got set up. Let's do it.
I'm out on that. I got functional sports ability. I'm not doing pull-ups and burpees and jumping over fences and shit. Who does? You don't need to do all that.
I don't think
nobody needs to do that.
Nobody on this podcast is doing pull-ups, push-ups, burpees.
Make it a fundraising event. I mean, we'd get like 4 people out there and then me and Chris would just die.
Raise like $40, pull a hammy.
Sweet. Can this $40 go to my reconstructive Achilles surgery? Because I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna be off my feet for about 8 weeks now. Oh man.
Unless you go to Michigan, then they'll just tell you you're fine. You're good.
You're good. You don't need surgery. Whoa, low blow, dude. Low blow. Too soon.
Shot at Michigan.
Too soon. Al Bundy, dude. 5 touchdowns. Polk high. Come on, dude. Bundy handed the pants, bro. Come on. Next live show. We could do all of that live. Just had that thought. Take the laptop.
I don't know that we want to do it live. Look, we tried to do our sing-along at home live, and we didn't like certain things about the way. Look, I'm not going to put anything out there in the public that I'm not truly happy about. So
that's fair. We want to be able to do a little post, little editing, a little music, little
maybe speed it up a little bit.
Dude, I'm going to say one of us because I think it's highly possible for both of us. When one of us goes down in a heap, we can put it into slow-mo, really get some effects on it.
Yeah, we'll work it out. We've got 2. I'm going to say it. We've got 2 more games left in the season.
Yeah.
One way or another, you and I are going to set up an obstacle course. We'll get the cones out. We'll do a drill. We'll record it. We'll put it out to the people. We'll let them decide.
Dude, I feel good about it right now, man. I feel good.
But that's that's like sitting here saying like diet starts tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and it's like, fuck.
It doesn't.
It always feels good when you're sitting down talking about it.
Punt, pass, and kick. I saw some. Dude? I can't kick a football to save my life.
I used
like
to be
off
able
a tee,
to punt pretty good. Yeah,
a punt I can do fine. I'm talking
about
like
off the tee. Oh yeah,
horrible.
No,
horrendous.
I don't understand how people can.
Yeah, it's really weird. Every time I kick the ball off the ground, off a tee, or someone holds it, it does that thing where it turns into like a spinning loaf of bread and just goes off like a sidewinder off to the side. Like if I get one up in the air ever, it's like a miracle.
We'll run through the gamut. We'll get it all on film, and like I said, we'll let the people decide. CJ, I will edit the shit out of that video. when I'm running that 40 time, I might speed it up a couple clicks here and there. And once Brandon gets on, I'll turn it down just a little bit.
Yeah, dude, that could be good times. We might have to do. we just tend to go off the rails. We get about that 50-minute mark, 48 minutes. There is no wrangling us in.
We've taken like 4 questions.
We've done a few. But then what happens is we get into a topic like this, and that's all anybody can talk about in the comments. The real stuff goes away. They're just as lack of attention as we are. I mean, we're not to blame for this.
Well, or maybe they're just that invested. They really want to see what we can put on film.
Right. This is the kind of quality you get when we show up on a Wednesday with no prep. We just did 12 minutes of punt, pass, and kick competition. Who's doing that?
I don't know. Not people that are really great at it. That's for sure.
Oh boy.
Anybody else got any questions out there?
I didn't want to say ADD or ADHD. I didn't want to do that, but that's what I was thinking.
Get yourself canceled, Brandon. First you go on a rant about redheaded people. Now you're talking about ADHD. Like,
I'm coming for everybody. Nobody's safe, dude.
Nobody is safe.
You got chronic ingrown toenails. I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you. You wear your pants too high up near your belly button. I'm coming for you, dude. I'm gonna give a speech like Dion. I'll be like, I'm coming.
Dude, that speech was incredible.
Anything that you wear that's white, that's a little bit dingy, I'm coming. Yeah,
I'm coming.
Tony Strong. Gingers with ADHD, I'm coming. That's
no chance.
God, that's like a Tasmanian devil right there, dude. What do you do with those folks? You just can't get them back. You
got to send them away. They're
just out there, dude.
You got to let them go.
You can't reel them back in.
You got to let them go.
Yeah. And if they come back to you, what's that saying?
If they come back to you, lock your damn doors. If they show back up, you're in trouble.
Oh, dude, over under on my fort, dude, it'd be mid-5s for sure now.
Might be a little higher than that.
I think you put a 5.5 on me. I'm hitting that. God damn, it wasn't much faster than that in my prime. Maybe not, dude. I don't know. Whew. Yeah, I'm bringing my luggage, and it's Louis. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's
I'm ready to be done, dude. I'm hungry.
It's St. John's Bay. Is that still a brand? Is that still around?
If you wear St. John's Bay, I'm coming. I'm coming. All right. Does anybody else have anything?
Are there any questions? Are there any football related questions? Because I'm not sure what we're doing anymore.
That we can finish. Lions, gotta love the Lions, man. They're playing good, strong, solid football.
Has your dad bought back in? Is he back in? Is he invested again? Is he allowed has he opened his heart to the Honolulu Blue?
That's a good question. I need to ask him about that. I'll see him tomorrow. I'll find out. Aiden Hutchinson leading the entire rookie class with 7 sacks, more hurries than anybody, than any other rookies, more interceptions than any edge players. I think that might be period. I don't think that's just rookies. He's the first player in Lions franchise history, not rookie, not edge, not just the first player to have 7 sacks, 2 picks, and a fumble recovery. I mean, that's kind of like an obscure combination to get to the first, but like those are all productive numbers for a defensive player, and he's the first one to ever do it. So
it's weird numbers for a first round bust,
right? Yeah, don't hear much about that from the old Spartan radio, huh? But anyway, yeah. Let's see. Score predict. Well, we'll get into that. I don't know if we want to do a score prediction for Michigan TCU just yet, because we'll do that.
Put mine out inadvertently. But,
did you?
Yeah, all right. But we can revisit that later.
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to that a little bit later. Well, there's your answer, Scott Brown. No, he's still out. He's still out on the line.
Still out. You know what? stick to your guns there. Don't let them hurt you again, because that's how it works, right? They start to do just a little bit to get you to buy in, open your heart again, and then jab that knife right in it.
Nicholas Harbor is the 5-star. I don't even know what position he might play. He plays receiver. He rushes
whatever the hell he
passer.
wants.
I mean, yeah, he's got like world-class elite speed. I put something up about like how he would I don't think Michigan's 2023 class is like horrible, but it's not as good as you would think. But it's in the top 20. It'll probably finish somewhere around there unless you get a guy like Nicholas Harbor. You get some of these other top targets that Michigan is back in on. I mean, this guy's 6'5", 240. He's got faster 100-meter times than Jabril Peppers, Roman Wilson, Xavier Worthy. Everybody remembers him from Michigan's recruiting a couple years ago. He's a freak. I just get the sense that he's going somewhere else. I mean, really do.
247 right now has him 100% to South Carolina.
I know, dude. I don't get that. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, whether it's NIL, whether it's – I don't know. I don't know why, a guy like that wouldn't – well, he is giving Michigan a serious look. I guess I can't say that, but there's other stuff. There's other stuff in the on the checklist for him, and I just don't know if Michigan's going to have enough to get it done because he's a freak show, man. He actually is. Yeah, Malachi Coleman was supposed to visit Michigan this weekend, canceled his trip. Now he's going to Colorado. Whatever, dude. All sizzle, no steak out there. Do your thing. Do your thing. I like Dion. I like his attitude. I like what he's going to do, but that, like, whatever. You're going to win 6 games next year. Cool. And I don't know, whatever. Do your thing. Do your thing, 21. Do your thing. Right? That's about all I got on that. Thank you for the donation, Ray. The Lions lost on Thanksgiving. Close game. Last second field goal against the Bills. Pretty solid, but yeah, anyway. I don't know, Chris. That's all I got. And we don't have outro music either, so we just shut it down and pack it up and get out of here. Oh!
Thank you once again.
Sounded a lot like Rich. I forgot we did talk about that last time. A little play out music.
We did.
So there you go.
We don't have any outro music. I don't know. Should we sing our way out? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what to do here.
To you.
Well, until we meet again, which would be what, Monday? No show Friday.
That's how it's feeling. It's starting to feel like that. I mean, if we get a bug in our bonnet and we want to go on Friday, we'll do it. But I like a little weekend, heading into the weekend, having some time off, but we'll see.
Well, yeah. So Darren, Friday's usually spent, we're making our predictions. We're talking about what the upcoming game is going to be, a lot of that stuff. And right now, without Michigan having a game, it just, I mean, you saw how much of a struggle it was for us to make it through this. We spent damn near 20 minutes talking about our own athleticism, talking about setting up our own drills.
Well,
that's how limited the content is right now.
Let's give ourselves a little credit. If we hadn't opened up those doors, we could have kept going for 20 more minutes on real stuff.
Maybe.
Who wants to do that?
No, yeah, none of it's that interesting.
Oh,
not as interesting as us running around. A couple of dinks out there just showing off their athleticism.
Dinks on links
out in Glendale or LA. Probably LA would be better. Get out on the beach, turn an ankle.
Oh, dude, go through one of those like running cones in the sand, dude.
Yeah,
slow motion.
We'll do it in LA.
Stand up.
Ocean in the background.
That way. Great question. Take us out. Take us out on this, Fletch. Chris, do you ever wear your hat forwards?
There are times, yes, but at this point it just feels weird, it doesn't really feel. There were if you go back and watch podcasts from last year, there were certain instances where I had it on frontwards, forwards.
Can we see it?
No,
pulled it out, showed it to you.
It's like asking me to take my beard off right now. How dare you?
Well, I don't know if it's like that.
It is like that. It's a part of me, Brandon. It's a part of my shtick now.
Sorry, Fletch. I tried to get it for you, but
I have a shtick, and it's mine.
Me too. Oh, Michigan did get that defensive line commitment. Roderick Pierce knew it was happening. Forgot to put a story together for it. So there you go. Yeah, he's not the highest rated prospect out there, but he is a top target for Michigan. He's picked up some really big offers here down the stretch. He's a kind of one of those trending upwards kind of guys from the Chicago area. 300 plus pounds, kind of fits the bill, fits the mold, like Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, big bodied kid, athletic kid, guy that they really wanted. Because like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham weren't the biggest name recruits in the world either, and both of those look like they're going to play for 4 straight years at Michigan, starting with their true freshman season. So there you go. Roderick Pierce apparently just pulled the trigger. Yeah, I knew it was 7 Central. I knew about that too, and I forgot that was happening. So right at 8 o'clock, right there he is, right on time for Roderick Pierce to join up with the 2023 Michigan recruiting class. That's a good way to take us out right there. Nice positive note that actually has to do with football, as opposed to Chris's hat or our lack of athleticism as we approach 40.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there it is. Brother Rice, Chicago. He's listed as a 4-star in some places. I think a 3-star in other places. But yeah, you know how that works. Different places have them different ratings.
Different strokes for different folks, Brandon. That's what that is.
But he was a big time target for the staff. They really, really liked him, and they got him. So there you go. All right, we're going to leave on that note. Probably have something up on him either today or tomorrow morning, break him down a little bit more, take a deeper dive into what he's doing. And I don't believe we will be back on Friday, Chris. Didn't we just make that decision?
Yep. Nothing on Friday. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll see if any other interesting news pops off, because we can't do another show like this. We can't do another show where we have to talk about ourselves pretty much the whole time. So we need some things to happen.
We'll see what happens. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll be back on Monday.